call this a plea. If anyone out there happens to know Kelly, Foster, and Kelly, the authors of Fender, The Golden Age 1946 to 1970, this book here, I beg you, please come out with your own version of the Rickenbacker history. And indeed, they did in fact hear I plea. Martin Kelly and Paul Kelly, two of the authors of Fender the Golden Years, picked up the mantle and have released, just as asked, the definitive book on Rickenbacker guitars and basses. All the history, all the models, all the notable players. Here it is, Rickenbacker. Out of the frying pan, into the fire glow. I couldn't be more excited about this. So, as you saw from that clip, in a much earlier episode 2 full years ago, I requested that this book exist because there was a need for it. And I couldn't have been more thrilled when Martin Kelly reached out to me and said, "Hey, the book's out, do you have a copy?" And I said, "I do." He said, "Do you have the deluxe presentation copy?" And I had to admit I didn't, because it's a bit pricey, if I'm honest. He said, "Well, we'd really like it if you could do an episode featuring the book and doing a review, and we'd like to send you a copy of the deluxe edition so you can review it as well as the standard edition for your viewers." And I said, "Absolutely, be my pleasure." So let's talk a bit about this. Way back when, in the 90s, Richard Smith released what was then considered the ultimate Rickenbacker book. And it was a good book. Let's be honest. We talked about it in that episode of the Rickenbacker Library. It was a good book. But it could only do what it could do given the information available at the time. This is back in the free internet age. Well, now we know a lot more. And there's a lot more information out there to be had. As I said, thanks to the internet, the whole world has gotten a bit smaller. Just as a for instance, in the Richard Smith book, it mentions that at some point in 1967, I believe it was, there was an order taken for a Mando guitar. And he speculated as to what that might look like. Well, guess what? This book more than speculates about what it looks like, it has a picture of the darn thing. That's just one example. This is everything that I could have asked for in a Rickenbacker book. It's obviously a labor of love. The Kellys put their all into this, and it shows. It's a huge book. I've never counted the pages. 336 pages. This is the softcover standard edition. Wonderful book. I can't recommend it highly enough, as I said. But for those of you who are really serious, and you know who you are, or those of you that are just savvy about making a wise investment, there's this. The Deluxe Presentation Edition. That's just what I call it. They call it the Deluxe Edition. You'll notice there are 2 volumes in this lovely slipcase. First of which is a hardcover version of the standard book, which is beautifully done. But that's not all, as they used to say in the Ginsu knife commercials, for those of you who are old enough to remember that, which is probably most of you. There's also this, a second softcover volume that features reprints of all of Rickenbacker's sales sheets and catalogs, going all the way back to the beginning of the company, everything that they could find, all lavishly bound in color where appropriate and in black and white when that was originally available. So there's that, as well as the original book. But again, that is not all. There is a folio inside. Folio that is embossed with the Rickenbacker logo. Now, not printed, mind you, embossed. You can feel it. Bas relief. Oh, what a relief it is. And inside we have, I can hold on to it. First off, suitable for framing, which is true of all these items. This is a reprint, the 1964 Rose Morris advertisement for the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. It's the Beetlebackers. The original ad that would have been placed in, I believe, Melody Maker magazine, among other places, in Great Britain, 1964. Very, very cool. Also, for those of you enthusiasts of that same ilk, here we are. There's this lovely poster featuring all of the Beatles' original instruments, original Rickenbacker instruments, that is, all except for George's second 360, which was stolen sometime in the late 60s. And they've got a similar model, I believe it's just a few serial numbers away from his, standing in for the one that's missing. Otherwise, these are all the original instruments owned by the Fab Four, which is just too cool. And in case that wasn't enough, a similar poster featuring all of Paul Weller's 330s that he used with the Jam. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm going to iron these bad boys, and they're going to go into frames and wind up on my walls somewhere in the studio, which will be a challenge because every inch of the studio is covered in posters and photos and XTC memorabilia and guitar stuff, and I'll find a place for it all. Regardless, this is an amazing, amazing set. So, if you've got the scratch, you've got the means, I highly recommend you pick up this deluxe copy. If you can't swing the deluxe copy, there's nothing in the world wrong with the original book. It's wonderful. As I said, it's a labor of love, and I love it too. Let's talk about pricing. I believe the pricing now, this is Great Britain pounds they were talking about, of course, and they had to convert it. The standard book is right about $50, which also you have to come up with nearly another $50 for shipping if you order it directly from Phantom Publishing. It's pricey, and eventually there may well be a distributor here in America, but as of right now, that's what you have to do. It was worth it to me. I'm going to guess it's probably worth it to you. Now for, well, it's more than a bit more money. For, I believe it's $269, you get the deluxe presentation version. That sounds like a lot of money, and in some ways it is, but let me point one thing out. Now, keep in mind, as they used to say in the Franklin Mint collector's plates commercials, previous performance is in no way an indicator of future values, but back in the early 90s, I picked up a copy of this book. This is Bizarre Guitars by Ritter Music. It's a history of 60s guitars, mostly Japanese, and it's written in Japanese. I paid a whopping $40 for this book back then, and several of my friends laughed out loud at me. How could you spend $40 on a softback book? Are you crazy? I'm crazy like a fox. Last I saw, they're trading hands on Reverb for about $300 a copy if it's in good shape. Mine's in great shape, even though I've read it. I'm not saying that you need to make an investment here, but it couldn't hurt. Got me? So whether you decide to go with the deluxe edition or the standard edition, again, can't recommend this book highly enough. Pick up your own copy of Rickenbacker out of the frying pan, excuse me, and into the FIREGLOW. You won't be disappointed. I certainly wasn't. It's everything you could have hoped for, and it is the definitive book on Rickenbacker guitars and basses. This was, and forever shall be, Steve the Rickaholic, signing off until next time, which should be about a week from now. We're going to get together and talk about the future of this channel / show and what's going to become of it. And you, the viewers, are going to have a say in that. So by all means, tune in, keep your eyes open, and look for it. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell, and make a comment. It turns out comments are far more valuable than anything else on YouTube. It helps the the demographics? Helps people to find me. So there are over 200 of us now. No idea how that happened. We doubled during the pandemic, and that's pretty awesome since there were no new episodes during the pandemic. So anyway, Steve the Rickaholic, Rick and who? What? Rick and Morty? No, Steve the Rickaholic, signing out until next time. Keep chiming on. Later.